On my birthday, my parents shamed me before 35 relatives, hit me with a $121,000 bill, and fired me. They thought they'd won. But I'm not finished. My 29th birthday wasn't about cake and presents. It was the day my parents publicly humiliated me, handed me a $121,000 bill for being their son, and then made sure I lost my job. They thought they'd broken me, but they just woke me up. Right now, my phone is practically vibrating off the table. I've got 54 missed calls from my mom, Clara, 45 from my dad, John, and 28 from my sister, Sophia. They've been blowing up my line since Friday morning, and it's only Monday afternoon. And no, I haven't answered a single one. I never will. Let me take you back to last Thursday, my 29th birthday. My parents, John and Clara, insisted on throwing me a huge family dinner at their place. It'll be great to get everyone together, Mom said. We haven't had a big gathering in ages. Looking back, I should have known something was off when Clara specifically told me to be there at 6 p.m. sharp and to dress well. She kept stressing how crucial my on-time arrival was. I even got there at 5:55 p.m., just to be safe. And that's when I saw it. Cars. Everywhere. At least 18 of them, spilling out from the driveway onto the street. Inside, the house was packed. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandma, even friends I hadn't seen in years. A massive table laden with food. Everyone was dressed to the nines. It wasn't a birthday dinner, it looked more like a wedding reception. My sister, Sophia, met me at the door. She had this weird look on her face, almost like she was uncomfortable. She quickly ushered me into the dining room, saying Mom and Dad had an announcement. I figured, great, a cringeworthy birthday speech, maybe some embarrassing baby photos. You know, standard parent stuff. But then my dad, John, stood at the head of the table. He clinked his glass. The room fell silent. He started talking about how they'd raised me for 29 years, how they'd sacrificed everything and given me every chance. But his voice, it was off. Not warm, not celebratory. Cold. Formal. Like he was reading from a script. Then, Mom, Clara, got up. She walked over to the wall, where all the family portraits were hung. She reached up, grabbed my high school graduation photo, pulled it right off the wall, and threw it into a garbage can they'd placed nearby. Then she did it again. And again. Each time, she spat out another accusation. You were always ungrateful. You never appreciated anything we gave you. You're a failure who completely drained us. The room was dead silent. No one moved. No one spoke. My grandma covered her mouth with her hand. My cousin was discreetly filming on his phone. And I just stood there, trying to process what the hell was happening. Then, John pulled out a thick manila envelope and thrust it into my hands. Inside, a printed document. The title, Invoice for Parenting Services Rendered. It was an itemized list of every single expense they claimed to have incurred raising me. Diapers, formula, clothes, school supplies, car insurance, college fees, line item after line item, going back 29 years. The grand total at the bottom? A staggering $121,000. He looked at me with pure disdain. Said they'd wasted every penny raising an ungrateful kid who never amounted to anything. He gave me two options, pay them back in full, or never speak to them again. We're done being your parents, he declared. You are officially cut off. I was still reeling when Sophia stepped forward, holding out her hand. Your car keys, she demanded. I was confused, speechless. That's when John chimed in, clarifying that the car I'd been driving was technically still in his name. He'd just been letting me use it, but now, he was transferring the title to Sophia. She needs a nicer car anyway, he added. Sophia snatched the keys from my stunned grasp and dropped them into her purse. And that's when my eyes landed on someone sitting at the far end of the table, Ethan, my supervisor from work. He was at my birthday dinner. Clara pointed right at him. We asked him here, she announced, so he could hear the truth about who you really are. Ethan stood up. He told me he'd had a long talk with my parents earlier that week. They'd apparently voiced concerns about my character and work ethic. Based on their feedback and his own findings, he was terminating my employment, effective immediately. Clean out your desk Monday morning, he said. You need to understand something important. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't beg them to explain or rethink. I just looked. I looked at the faces in that room, relatives, family, friends, all there to witness my public execution. I looked at my parents. At my sister. At my now ex-boss. And then, I turned around. And I walked out. Right out the front door. I pulled up my phone on the sidewalk and called an Uber. I went back to my apartment. And that's where I started making my own arrangements. What my parents didn't know, couldn't possibly have known, was that I'd been preparing for something like this for 3 long years. Not this exact scenario, of course, but I'd felt our relationship crumbling for a long time. For years, they'd chipped away at me, calling me a disappointment, saying I wasn't living up to their expectations, reminding me how much I owed them. The pressure intensified when I started making my own life choices, not theirs. Dad wanted me in medical school, I went into tech support. Mom pushed her religious groups and social clubs, I quietly opted out after college. They wanted me to date Sophia's friends, join the country club. Nope. Every single decision that veered from their meticulously planned vision for my life just fueled their resentment. My parents, you see, are obsessed with appearances. With prestige. With what their friends and relatives think. They needed everyone to see them as perfect parents with perfect children, living perfect lives. I wasn't playing along with that fairy tale anymore, so they decided to publicly write me out of the story. But here's what they completely underestimated: I'm damn good at my job. Really good. Ethan firing me? That was a problem, sure, but a solvable one. I knew his regional boss, David. We'd worked directly on several critical accounts. Ethan had no valid grounds for termination, and my parents couldn't conjure up any legitimate performance issues. The car? Annoying, yes, but not catastrophic. It was a 2015 sedan, 130,000 miles, needed new brakes. Sophia could have it. And that $121,000 invoice? Legally, utterly useless. You can't charge your children for raising them. That document had zero enforceability. It was pure, unadulterated theater. What my parents also didn't realize. Their little theatrical production had an audience. 35 or more witnesses, gathered to watch them humiliate their own son on his birthday. And some of those witnesses? They had their own complicated histories with John and Clara. Some were quietly wondering where certain family funds had disappeared to over the years. Some remembered things my parents desperately wished they'd forgotten. So, Thursday night, I didn't wallow. I made a list. Friday, I investigated. By Saturday, I had phone numbers and email addresses. And by Sunday, I had drafted some very carefully worded messages. Friday morning, my phone started its symphony of regret. Clara first, then John, then Sophia. I let every single call go straight to voicemail. The early messages? Pure fury. How dare I just leave? How could I disgrace them in front of the family? Did I think I could just ignore them? But by Friday afternoon, the tune began to change. Suddenly, they needed to talk. It was important. There were things they needed to explain. Could I just answer the phone? By Saturday, the calls were frantic. Clara left a voicemail, saying there'd been misunderstandings at dinner. Things got out of control. They didn't mean for it to go that way. She wanted to meet for coffee, clear the air. Sunday morning, John's voicemail blamed faults in how they handled the situation. He wanted to talk calmly and find a way forward as a family. And Sophia? Sunday evening, she sent me 12 texts in a row. Mom and Dad are panicking. Relatives are calling, asking questions. People are saying terrible things. Grandma's upset. She pleaded with me to call back, just to let everyone know I was okay, that we were working things out. I didn't reply to a single one. Because this was exactly what I wanted. By the way, if you're still hooked on this wild ride, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss the next unbelievable stories I have to share. Those carefully crafted messages I'd send out on Sunday morning? They were now rippling through the entire family network. Whispers turned into conversations. People started asking questions about John's financial dealings over the years. Questions about how Clara's mother's inheritance was actually distributed. Questions about what really happened to Sophia's college fund. I wasn't breaking any laws. I wasn't making things up. All I did was arm the right people with the right information so they could start asking the right questions about what had truly happened. My parents had been so meticulous, so careful, to bury their secrets beneath their picture-perfect family facade. But now, that facade was cracking. The calls kept coming, 54 from Clara, 45 from John, 28 from Sophia. I saved every single one. Every voicemail, where their terror was slowly but surely rising. Sophia's texts became increasingly desperate, trying every angle to get me to respond. They wanted to talk. They wanted to explain. They wanted me to make it stop. But I wasn't going to make it stop. I was going to make things worse. This was just update 1. 8 days since that infamous birthday dinner, and things were already taking unexpected turns. To be clear, my messages weren't gossip or lies. I simply contacted specific relatives and asked targeted questions about events they'd lived through. My parents had spent years carefully constructing false narratives around these events. For example, I sent Uncle Adam, my dad's younger brother, a message asking if he ever received the $17,000 Grandma Evelyn had left him in her will. I'd found the will years ago while helping Grandma with paperwork and always wondered why Adam never brought it up. I asked Aunt Lucy, Clara's sister, about the money from the sale of their mother's house. That house, where their mom lived for 40 years, sold for $310,000. Lucy had mentioned at Thanksgiving she never saw a dime. And to my cousin Luke, Adam's son, I asked if he knew what happened to the college fund our grandmother had set up for all the grandkids. She'd established it in 2005 with clear instructions, an equal share for each grandchild at 18. I didn't tell anyone what to do with this information. I just asked the questions. Questions that force people to confront things they'd been too polite, or too afraid of conflict, to address themselves. Monday morning, first priority, my job. I called David, the regional manager, who I'd worked closely with on that massive software migration project last year. I calmly explained that Ethan had fired me on Friday, without cause, and without following any proper protocol. David was genuinely confused. He hadn't been informed of any termination. When I told him Ethan made the decision based on a chat with my parents during a family dinner, there was a long, stunned silence on his end. Then he simply said, "Sit tight, I'll call you back." 2 hours later, my phone rang. David. Ethan was suspended, pending an inquiry into illegal firing procedures. I was reinstated, with back pay for the days I'd missed. David apologized for what happened and promised to check in personally to ensure no retaliation. Problem number 1? Solved. And it felt good. The car was a different story, and definitely more irritating. I looked into it. John officially owned it, and he'd freely transferred it to Sophia. Even though I'd been paying the insurance and maintenance, legally, I had no claim. His name was on the title. So, I started taking the bus to work and browsing used car listings online. Then, Wednesday afternoon, Uncle Adam called. Not a text, an actual phone call. I answered. Adam had always been kind to me, and I was curious. He got straight to it. After my letter, he dug through old paperwork and found Grandma Evelyn's original will. He confirmed he never received that $17,000. John was the executor. When Adam had asked about it years ago, John told him the estate didn't have enough liquid assets after bills and funeral expenses. But Adam, now suspicious, had just requested the estate filing forms from the county clerk's office. Turns out, after all bills and fees, there was $52,000 available. John had filed a document claiming the entire amount was used for burial and administration. Adam asked if I knew anything. I told him I didn't know the specifics, but I did know John had paid off his truck around that same time and taken Clara on a lavish vacation. Adam was silent for a long moment. Then, he said he was going to have a talk with John. And he thanked me for asking that simple question. Thursday morning, Sophia showed up at my apartment. I had no idea how she even got my address. I'd moved 6 months ago and told no one in the family. She must have followed me or asked someone. She was waiting in the hallway as I headed for my bus stop. She looked terrible. Red-rimmed eyes, that frantic, sleepless energy. She launched right into it. Mom and Dad are going crazy. Family members are calling them non-stop. Uncle Adam showed up Tuesday night with Grandma Evelyn's will. There was a huge fight. Aunt Lucy hired an investigator for the house sale. Cousin Luke called a lawyer about the college fund. Everyone's turning against them, and it's all your fault. I looked at her. My fault? Sophia, why do you think I'm responsible for John and Clara's actions? She insisted I'd stirred everything up on purpose, that I sent those texts to cause problems. That I was trying to destroy the family because I was upset over the birthday dinner. I calmly explained I only asked questions about actual events. If those questions were causing problems, maybe she should ask why. Sophia changed tactics. The birthday dinner was Dad's idea, not Mom's. Mom tried to talk him out of it, but he was determined to teach you a lesson. She said they'd both been drinking, things got out of control. She tried to tell me I needed to understand they were stressed, and I hadn't made things easy. I pushed back. How much stress did I cause you, Sophia? She got vague. Just regular things. You distanced yourself from the family. You stopped coming to gatherings. You refused to date Melissa when we tried to set you up. You chose an ordinary job instead of something more ambitious. None of that, I stated, explains the birthday dinner. None of that explains the public humiliation. None of that explains trying to get me fired. Sophia just kept circling, implying everyone made mistakes and we should just move on. I then asked about the car keys. She looked incredibly uneasy. Dad said you weren't driving it properly, and I needed a car for my new job. Your new job? I pressed. She had no answer. She'd been working part-time at a boutique for a year, nothing had changed. Then I asked the big one, did you know about the dinner ahead of time? What they were planning? She hesitated. Too long. Then she whispered, no. That pause said everything. She knew something was coming, even if not the specifics. She tried again. You have to call Mom and Dad. You need to tell Uncle Adam, Aunt Lucy, and everyone to stop asking questions. The family is falling apart, and you're the only one who can fix it. I just stared at her. Why, I asked, would I want to fix it? She had no answer. Friday afternoon, Clara showed up at my office. I was in the break room when David, the regional manager, came to find me. Someone's in the lobby looking for you, he said. When I went downstairs, there she was, my mother. Seated primly in a guest chair, looking like she was attending a corporate board meeting. Perfect hair, flawless makeup, radiating full Clara armor. She immediately said, "We need to talk quietly." I just gestured around the busy foyer. "We can talk right here." She glanced at the receptionist, the security guard, the people passing by. "This is family business," she insisted. "It needs to be confidential." "You made our family business public," I reminded her, "when you invited 30 relatives to watch you throw away my photographs. If you want to talk now, it happens right here." Clara's composure finally cracked, just a little. She accused me of being unfair and childish. Claimed she came to apologize and make things right, but I was making it difficult. "What," I asked, "are you explicitly sorry for?" She launched into a theatrical list. She was sorry the dinner got emotional. She regretted what was said in anger. She was sorry I was upset by what transpired. I cut her off. "Are you sorry," I asked, "for pulling my photographs off the wall?" "That was one of the reasons I got too emotional," she deflected. "Are you sorry for calling me useless, for saying I'd emptied you completely?" I was unhappy. "I didn't mean it that way." "Are you sorry for encouraging my boss to fire me?" "That was John's idea," she said quickly. "I warned him it was too much." Every answer was a deflection. Every apology came with an excuse, an explanation, a way to shift blame. "What do you want from me, Clara?" I finally asked. She wanted me to forgive them so they could go on as a family. She wanted me to stop whatever I was doing that was causing family to ask all these questions. She wanted everything to return to normal. "There is no normal to return to," I told her. "You destroyed that at the birthday dinner." "You're overreacting to one bad night," she snapped back. "Is this just one bad night?" I asked her, "or is this 29 years of them seeing me as a disappointment because I didn't live the life you planned for me?" Clara stood up. "I tried to be reasonable," she declared. "I tried to apologize, but you're just determined to be tough and vengeful. You'll regret this when you realize you ruined your own family over bruised feelings." Then she stormed out. David, my regional manager, had seen the whole thing from the second-floor hallway. He came down afterwards, asking if I was okay. I told him I was fine. He said if she showed up again, building security would handle it. He also confirmed he'd filed an official complaint about Ethan's behavior, ensuring a full review. Saturday, my phone rang 63 times. Sunday, 41. I still didn't answer, but I listened to every single voicemail. The anxiety and fury in their voices were palpable. John left one accusing me of tearing down everything he'd built. Clara called me deceptive and harsh. Sophia, weeping, claimed I was ruining her life because everyone was grilling her about things she had no idea about. But here's the thing, all I'd done was ask questions. Questions about actual facts, about actual events. If those facts were causing problems for John and Clara, that wasn't my manipulation. That was the direct result of their actions. And this? This was only the beginning. I had more questions lined up. Questions about other family events, other financial decisions. Other times my parents' version of reality conveniently diverged from the truth. I had years of observations, years of suppressed insights, all saved up. But I'd stayed silent, all to maintain some false sense of peace. Now, I was done preserving their peace. Update 2. It's been 17 days since that infamous birthday dinner, and let me tell you, things have escalated in ways I find, frankly, quite entertaining. I'm actually recording this from a grocery store parking lot right now. I needed to get out of my apartment for a bit to process everything. The missed calls have slowed down a bit, only 135 from Clara, 109 from John, and 76 from Sophia. That's because they've switched tactics. Yesterday, there was a family gathering at my grandmother's house. I wasn't invited, of course. But I got every single detail from 3 different sources within an hour of it ending. Let me fill you in on what's happened since my last update. Uncle Mark, Adam's older brother, has now officially filed a formal complaint in probate court regarding Grandma Evelyn's estate. He presented the original will and county documents proving there were $52,000 in liquid assets. He's demanding a full explanation for where that money went and why he never received his inheritance. John is now legally compelled to produce paperwork or face serious legal ramifications for mismanagement. Then there's Aunt Sarah. She hired her own investigator for her mother's house sale. Clara was a co-executor on that estate. The house sold for $310,000. After the mortgage and estate expenses, Sarah and Clara should have each received an equal share of $200,000. Sarah got a paltry $30,000. Clara told her it was her full share after additional charges and fees. Sarah's investigator found irrefutable evidence. The entire $200,000 was distributed, with $150,000 going directly into an account in Clara's name. And my cousin Luke? He called the bank about Grandma Evelyn's college money trust. It was set up in 2005 with $60,000 in clear instructions, divided equally among all 5 grandkids when they turned 18. John was the trustee. Luke turned 18 in 2015 and never saw a cent. John told him the fund had underperformed and was drained due to market losses. But the bank provided Luke with the full trust history. In 2015, the fund was actually worth $80,000. And between 2015 and 2020, there were 5 withdrawals, each perfectly coinciding with a grandchild's 18th birthday. Each withdrawal was for the entire balance at the time. All 5 withdrawals? Made to an account held by John and Clara. So now, we have 3 undeniable cases. 3 instances where my parents had control of family money, and it conveniently vanished. I didn't cause any of this. I just asked the questions that finally made people look at records they should have scrutinized years ago. Tuesday afternoon, Sophia showed up at my apartment again. This time, she wasn't alone. She had a tall man in an expensive suit with her, someone I didn't recognize. "This is my legal friend," she announced. "He's here to help us sort things out." "Why do we need a lawyer to talk?" I asked. "Things have gotten complicated," she said. "We need an impartial party before things get worse." The lawyer, whose name I immediately forgot, started in on family reconciliation and how litigation never ends well. He'd reviewed the case, he claimed, and there were misconceptions that open conversation could resolve. He suggested we all sit down, parents, kids, and calmly discuss everything with him mediating. I asked who was paying him. He said he was doing it as a favor for Sophia. I asked Sophia how she knew him. She got vague, again. "Through friends." He volunteered when he heard about our family problems. I pressed the lawyer directly. "Who approached you first?" He admitted Sophia contacted him, but Clara had supplied him with the background information. So, Clara sent Sophia with a lawyer to my apartment to strong-arm me into mediation. I told them both I wasn't interested. The lawyer warned I was making a mistake, that court fights damage family ties forever. Our family ties, I told him, were already irreparably damaged 17 days ago, at my birthday dinner. Then Sophia started to cry. Real tears this time, not the performative kind. She wailed that I was spoiling everything. Her parents were splitting up. Uncle Mark wasn't speaking to them. Aunt Sarah had screamed at Mom for 20 minutes on the phone. The whole family was taking sides, and she was caught in the middle. "You have to fix this," she pleaded. "You started it." I looked her dead in the eye. "Sophia, did you know anything about the missing money? Mark's inheritance, Sarah's house sale profits, the vanished college fund?" "No," she cried. "I knew nothing about any of it." "Do you think Mom and Dad have reasonable explanations for where all that money went?" I asked. "There have to be explanations," she insisted. "My parents aren't thieves. There must be misunderstandings, errors in documentation." "Do you truly believe that, Sophia?" I pressed, "or are you just trying to convince yourself?" She didn't answer. The lawyer tried to restart his mediation spiel. I simply told them both to leave. Sophia kept sobbing as they walked out. The lawyer left his business card on my kitchen counter. They left. Wednesday, I got a text message from my grandma. A text. My 81-year-old grandma, who barely knows how to operate her phone. That alone was unusual. The message simply said she needed to see me. She informed me the family was having a meeting at her house Saturday afternoon, and I needed to be there. She said it was vital, but she wasn't asking. I texted back, "Will John and Clara be there?" "Everyone will be there," she replied. "Is this an ambush, Grandma?" I asked. "It's a family gathering to discuss important topics," she wrote back, "and your presence is needed." I told her I'd think about it. Thursday, Clara called me from an unknown number. I answered, thinking it might be work-related. She immediately started talking. "You won," she spat. "You've effectively turned the entire family against us. You've ruined our reputation and our relationships with everyone we care about. You must be so proud of yourself." I wondered if she was calling to blame me for the consequences of her own actions. She accused me of orchestrating this whole thing to make them look bad. She said I asked questions in a way that made people suspect, even though there were perfectly plausible explanations for everything. "Oh really, Clara?" I challenged her. "What's the plausible explanation for withholding Adam's $17,000 inheritance?" She mumbled something about estate debts I wasn't aware of. "And the plausible explanation for withholding $130,000 from Sarah's house sale?" There were additional estate fees Sarah didn't understand. "Why didn't you mention these fees to Adam and Sarah earlier?" I pushed. "Why did you lead them to believe they'd received their full inheritance?" "It's complicated," she said. "You wouldn't understand, you've never managed a family estate." "You're right," I said. "I wouldn't understand how someone could steal from their own family and sleep at night." Clara's tone shifted entirely. "You have no idea what you're talking about," she shrieked. "John and I have given everything for this family. We've put everyone else first for decades. If we spent any of that money for our own needs, we earned it, taking care of everyone else's problems." "Did Adam and Sarah understand," I asked, "that you believed you'd earned the right to steal money that wasn't yours?" She hung up. Friday morning, John called from that same unknown number. He took a different approach. He said he knew I was upset over the birthday dinner. He admitted he handled things poorly and regretted the way he tackled the problem. He claimed he was just trying to teach me about responsibility and appreciation, but he'd gone too far. He wanted to set things right. "What does setting things right look like, John?" I asked. He suggested we sit down as a family to discuss everything, to resolve the difficulties with Adam, Sarah, and Luke. He insisted there were answers to the financial issues people were asking, and he wanted an opportunity to adequately explain them. If I came to the family meeting on Saturday, he'd address any issues I had, and we could begin to re-establish trust. "Are you going to write Adam a check for $17,000? I asked. "It's not that simple," he dodged. "Are you going to write Sarah a check for $130,000? The estate circumstances are legally complicated," he claimed, "requiring adequate paperwork and assessment." "Are you going to refund the college fund? Money meant for your 5 grandkids?" He said the money had been utilized for family situations over the years, and there was no pool of cash waiting to be returned. So, essentially, he was asking me to attend a family gathering where he would explain why he was justified in hoarding money that belonged to others. I told him I wasn't interested in his explanations. He insisted I owed him an opportunity to defend himself. "You've had 17 days to explain yourself, John," I reminded him. "Instead, you spent it calling me 109 times and sending Sophia with a lawyer to pressure me." He called me unfair and vengeful. I hung up. Saturday morning, Sophia texted me another 8 times. Pleading, begging me to come to Grandma's. Everyone will be there. This is your chance to hear Mom and Dad's side. If you don't come, you're just proving you don't care about the truth, you just want to make trouble. Grandma's furious you refused, she texted. Your absence is making things worse. I didn't go. Instead, I sat in my apartment, calmly waiting for the inevitable. At 3:47 p.m., a text from Cousin Luke popped up. Meeting was a disaster. John and Clara tried to explain their financial positions, but had zero concrete proof. Uncle Mark came with a lawyer. Aunt Sarah brought her investigator's report. They confronted John and Clara with precise statistics, dates, demands for accountability. According to Luke, John started ranting about everyone ganging up on them due to misunderstanding. Clara sobbed, saying they'd devoted their entire life to this family, and this is how they were compensated. Sophia defended them, claiming everyone was being harsh. Grandma tried to keep order, but finally gave up. Both Adam and Sarah declared they were pursuing legal action. John retaliated, "If that's what you want, I'll fight you in court." Everyone left in a rage. At 4:15 p.m., Grandma left me a voicemail. Her voice was filled with disappointment. She said I should have gone to the meeting, that families face challenges together, not avoid them. You started this, she said, and it was your obligation to see it through. She had no idea what I was trying to accomplish, but I was tearing the family apart. I sat in my apartment and listened to that message 3 times. My grandma. The woman I had always loved and respected. She blamed me for driving the family apart. Not John, for stealing money that wasn't his. Not Clara, for lying about estate distributions. Not the two of them, for publicly humiliating me on my birthday. Me, for asking questions about where the money went. That's when it hit me, they'd gotten to her too. They'd convinced her that the real problem wasn't their decades of deceit, but my revealing it. And if they could convince her, they were surely trying to convince everyone else. But I wasn't backing down. That meeting wasn't the end, it was confirmation. Confirmation that John and Clara had absolutely no intention of accepting true responsibility for anything they'd done. Their strategy? Control the narrative. Make themselves the victims. But I still had more moves to make. Because here's what they still didn't know, I'd been collecting receipts of my own. Documentation of every time they lied about me to others. Every time they manipulated events to their advantage. Every single instance they twisted familial bonds to corrupt and control. I was ready. Ready to start revealing that evidence. Final update. It's been 29 days since that birthday dinner. And honestly, this is probably my last update, because there isn't much more to say. John and Clara are facing repercussions they can't negotiate, can't manipulate their way out of. Sophia has finally been forced to confront some hard truths. And me? I am exactly where I want to be. The week after that disastrous family meeting, things really started to pick up speed. Uncle Mark officially petitioned the probate court for a full examination into Grandma Evelyn's estate. Aunt Sarah filed a lawsuit against Clara for the missing $130,000 from their mother's property sale. Cousin Luke and the other grandkids hired a lawyer to reclaim their college fund money. According to Sophia, when she showed up at my apartment for the 3rd time, my parents had hired their own lawyer. And it was, apparently, rather costly. She was frantic. Mom and Dad are drowning in legal bills, she cried. They'll have to sell the house to pay for their defense. Everything's out of control. The only way to stop it is for you to tell everyone to drop their cases. I just looked at her. Sophia, why do you think I have that power? Everyone knows you started this, she insisted. If you just publicly admitted you were wrong to raise concerns, if you said Mom and Dad had fair answers, then the family would back off. Do you, Sophia, I asked, truly believe your parents have fair excuses for stealing money from others? There might be explanations we don't comprehend, she mumbled. I told Sophia I was done shielding her from reality. I pulled out my phone and showed her something I'd been holding onto. Screenshots. Text messages between Clara and Sophia from 2 months before my birthday dinner. Clara complaining about me, calling me an embarrassment, saying I needed to be taught a lesson about respect and gratitude, that she and John were plotting something to put me in my proper place. Sophia's face went white. I don't recall those chats, she stammered. I scrolled through more. Texts where Sophia agreed I'd been harsh, where she suggested a wake-up call for me. And when she'd asked Clara what they were planning for my birthday. Clara's reply, it'll be one you'll never forget. So, Sophia, I asked, do you still want to say you had no idea about the birthday dinner beforehand? She started to cry again. I didn't know the specifics, she sobbed. I thought it was just going to be a serious chat in front of the family. I had no idea about the photos, the invoice, your termination. She admitted she was stunned when it happened, but didn't know what to do. Then why? I pressed. Did you take the car keys? Dad told me to, she cried. He said the car was his, and I didn't deserve it anymore. I felt strange, but I did what he wanted. He's my father. And did you feel strange driving my car? I asked, while I took the bus to work. She had no answer. I showed her more screenshots. Years of observations. Messages where Clara lied to relatives about why I wasn't attending family functions. Emails where John told extended family I was struggling financially and couldn't be relied on, despite me doing perfectly well. Text threads where they trashed me to other family members for not following their life plan. Why did you keep all this? Sophia asked, her voice a raw whisper. Because, I told her, I've been collecting records for 3 years. I knew they'd eventually go too far, and I'd need proof that this wasn't just some sudden, one-sided outburst. The birthday dinner was just the trigger. The evidence of their manipulative, controlling behavior goes back years. Sophia asked what I wanted from her. Nothing, I said. You chose to side with them. You knew something was planned, so you participated. You took my car. You brought a lawyer to my apartment to pressure me. You spent a month trying to convince me I was the problem. I was done with her too. She left, and I haven't heard from her since. That was 11 days ago. Last Tuesday, John showed up at my apartment complex. He didn't even come to my door. He just waited on the sidewalk. When I left for work in the morning, there he was. He looked broken. Gaunt. His clothes looked like he'd slept in them for days. He'd aged 10 years in 4 weeks. He started talking immediately. We need to have a real chat, he said, just us. No lawyers, no other family, no interference. He wanted me to understand the family finances, to understand his actions over the years. He claimed everything he'd done was for excellent reasons, reasons I was too young to grasp. John, I cut him off, I'm 29 years old. And I fully grasp that you stole from your brother, your wife's sister, and your own grandkids. It wasn't stealing, he insisted. I was managing family finances. When you're in charge of multiple estates and trusts, you have to make judgments about where the money is most needed. The money was used to cover vital household expenses. What vital family expenses, I asked, required Adam's $17,000 bequest? We were in substantial debt, he replied. If we lost our home, the entire family would suffer. Why didn't you explain that to Adam, I asked, and ask to borrow the money? Adam wouldn't have grasped the urgency. There was no time for discussions. What about Sarah's $130,000 from the house sale? Clara's sister was never good with money, he claimed. We were scared she'd just blow her inheritance. We planned to send her the money in reasonable sums over time, but then Sarah stopped talking to Clara over a family quarrel, and it became problematic. And the college fund? That money was utilized for family situations, he said, when no other choices were available. We always intended to return it before the grandkids turned 18, but the financial situation proved more challenging than anticipated. We were working on a plan to recover the money before everything went wrong. Each response was a justification. Every theft reframed as smart financial management. Every lie rationalized as saving someone from themselves or avoiding a worse fate. John, I asked, do you truly believe what you're saying, or have you just told yourself these stories so many times that you've convinced yourself they're true? John's face hardened. You have no idea what it's like to be responsible for a family, he shouted. You spent 29 years taking from us, doing nothing. You went to college on our money, lived in our house, drove our car, and never once properly thanked us. And when we tried to teach you a lesson about gratitude, you got angry and destroyed everything. That birthday dinner, John, I said, my voice steady, wasn't a lesson. It was a public execution. A humiliating spectacle designed to punish me for not being the son you wanted. Why did you invite my boss? We needed to teach you that disobeying your parents has real consequences. And the fake invoice? I wanted you to know how much you owed us. Do you recognize, I asked him, that everything happening right now, the lawsuits, the legal bills, the shattered family connections, all of it stems directly from your decisions? Your decision to steal money from family members, and your decision to publicly humiliate your own son when he failed to meet your expectations? John looked desperate. I could stop everything, he pleaded. If you just talked to Adam and Sarah, told them you misunderstood the finances, they'd listen to you. If you admitted you'd been angry and vindictive and stirred up trouble on purpose, the family would forgive everyone and move on. You have the power to fix this, but you choose not to because you want to see us suffer. You're absolutely right, John, I told him, looking him straight in the eye. I do want to see you suffer. I spent years watching you manipulate and dominate everyone around you. Years of seeing you project this perfect family image while treating me like a failed investment. Years of knowing you were lying about their financial status, but not having enough evidence to prove it. That birthday dinner was my breaking point, and yes, I absolutely did purposefully pose questions that would reveal everything you were hiding. You're manipulative and vengeful, he accused, just like us. Perhaps, I replied, I learned from the greatest teachers. He said it would ruin them. They'd lose their house, lose their status, lose everything they'd created. You built it on falsehoods and stolen money, John, I reminded him. Perhaps you deserve to lose it all. He stared at me for a long time. Then, quietly, he said, you're dead to me. You've made your decision, and now you'll have to live with no family. It'll be too late when you're older and alone to realize what you've thrown away. I threw you away, I said, at the birthday dinner, when Clara threw away my photographs. This is just making it official. He turned and walked away. That was 8 days ago. Clara tried again yesterday. Another unknown number. When I answered, she didn't scream, she didn't weep, she didn't blame. She just sounded exhausted. She told me they were putting the house on the market. The legal bills were astronomical, so they had to settle with Adam and Sarah instead of going to court. They'd be moving into a modest apartment. Sophia was distraught, she added, she grew up in that house. Why are you telling me this, Clara? I asked. I wanted you to know what you'd accomplished, she said, her voice flat. You set out to destroy us, and you succeeded. You should be very proud. Clara, I said, did it ever occur to you to simply be honest with people? Honesty, she scoffed, is a luxury for those with no actual obligations. Do you regret the birthday dinner? I asked. I'm sad, she said, that you turned out to be the type of man who would ruin his own family over bruised feelings. Do you regret stealing from family members? I regret, she said, a hint of bitterness in her tone, entrusting family members with financial information they weren't sophisticated enough to grasp. Is there any situation, Clara, I asked, where you would admit you and John did something wrong? We made difficult judgments, she claimed, that individuals with narrow perspectives cannot understand. That's my answer, then, I said. We're done. We were done, she replied, the night you stormed out of that birthday dinner without trying to understand our point of view. I hung up. That was yesterday morning. Cousin Luke texted me last night with the final update. John and Clara have settled. Adam's getting $30,000, his inheritance plus interest. Sarah's getting $150,000, what she should have received, plus an agreed-upon extra sum. The 5 grandkids are splitting $50,000 to settle the college fund. The house sale closes next month. After all the settlements and legal fees, they'll have just enough for a tiny apartment and maybe a year's living expenses. Sophia, meanwhile, is all over social media, posting about cruel and callous individuals, how families should forgive and support, and how harboring grudges kills lives. She doesn't name me, but everyone knows. She's getting a lot of sympathetic responses from family members who don't know the full story. My grandma? Still silent since that one voicemail. But Uncle Mark sent me an email, thanking me for asking the questions that led to him finally getting his inheritance. Aunt Sarah sent one too, admitting she always suspected Clara had kept more of the house money, but never had the courage to investigate. And Cousin Luke? He said the grandkids are sharing their settlement and spending it on legitimate educational expenses, just like Grandma Evelyn always intended. I'm still in this apartment, the one Sophia found, the one my parents never knew about. I rode the bus to work this morning. I'll ride it home tonight. I'm looking at used cars, but I'm in no rush. My job is secure. David confirmed last week that Ethan is no longer with the organization, formally determined to have violated termination procedures and shown prejudice. 2 days ago, I bought a small birthday cake from the grocery store. I ate a slice, sitting on my kitchen counter. I'm 29. I have no family who claims me, no parents who speak to me, no sister who acknowledges me. And I'm good with that. Better than good. I'm no longer bearing their falsehoods. I'm no longer safeguarding their image. I'm not pretending their twisted version of events is true anymore. They wanted to officially disown me. They wanted to present me with a bill for raising me. They wanted to humiliate me in front of 35 relatives. And they did it. They accomplished exactly what they set out to do. But every consequence anyone faces is the direct result of their own decisions. They stole money. They fabricated falsehoods. They orchestrated a public spectacle to harm their child on his birthday. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves. I just made sure everyone saw it clearly. My phone hasn't rung in 3 days. My apartment is peaceful. And since I walked out of that birthday dinner, I have been precisely where I wanted to be. I am free of them. Done with their manipulation. And finally, done disappointing them. They threw me a birthday dinner to disown me. They succeeded. And now, they have to deal with the actual costs. So, what do you think? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own truth? Or seen a situation where people's secrets finally caught up to them? I'd really love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below.